matter how hard I try, you keep pushing me aside, and I can't break through. There's no talking to you. It's so sad that you're leaving. It takes time to believe it, but after all is said and done, you're gonna be the lonely one. Oh, do you believe in life after love?
Yeah, it's
Oh, I have almonds.
Yeah, but we're just tree up or holiday tree, whatever holiday you celebrate. And it's really festive in the office. Thanks mostly to Cole and Stephenson. So thank you guys for that. We have a good meeting coming up. Let's go to the first slide and then do I van of the tree?
this tree?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So we talked about this a little bit, but we haven't gotten as much traction as I would hope, but it's a little early. So last year we helped the partnered with Tiger Children's School District, and they have a social advocacy person, and we were able to help 89 families last year by collecting gift cards for Christmas presents and Hanukkah holiday presents for families. And they like collecting gift cards because it's just really hard to manage doing the tags for gifts and like codes and sizes and things. So I know that some people prefer to buy gifts, but it just makes it a lot harder to manage. So, and there is a sense of pride in the parents being able to buy a gift for their kids themselves. So we're collecting like $25 or $50 gift cards to Target, Walmart, Fred Meyer, places like that, for the local school districts. And right now, they already have, I talked to them yesterday, they have 87 families this year who've already applied for assistance. And I just saw another email that they have, like this food program, Packed with Pride, and they delivered more boxes last weekend than they have pre-COVID. So people are in need this holiday season, and if you're able to help local families. So because people like the idea of taking a tag, we put gift cards on tag. So you can take a tag from the beautiful tree, or you don't have to. And then just bring them into Sydney in our office. And we're trying to get them all to the school district by December 10th. So that's how we're kind of pushing earlier this year. So we would love any help you can for that. Okay, the ALC clinic for people who were invited to be on our 2024 ALC. We're having our all-day ALC clinic on Thursday, and this is where we talk about all the things we're going to do for next year. Those of you going to this should already know about it, but just a little reminder. And if you're not involved in it this year, you can always just pop in and check it out and see what's going on, and maybe think about joining the ALC down the road.
It's open.
And if you don't know what the ALC is, it's our Agent Leadership Council, which is like our board of directors, and they help us make decisions about the office, different things to implement. They go through our financials of the office, and they really like help us as a business, and then in turn try to help them grow in their thinking about business. Okay, next up. Rochelle's teaching social media on Thursday also. And I think in this one, she's gonna be going through the social media calendar for next year and building out the content calendar. So this should be a good class. And we will be in here for the ALC clinic, so this class will actually be in the front room on Thursday. Oh, did you guys remember what these, since you were reading these, by a mastermind?
I came in a little bit late. White was running it last week and it was fantastic. But the point of this is we're doing buyer agent masterminds, talk about buyer broker agreements or buyer representation agreements and how to use them. And so I think it's something that we're all kind of learning as we go. I mean, we can talk about the legalities of it, even that, some of that's a little cloudy, but like, how do you implement it? What situations do you use it? What are the talking points around it, the objections need to be answered, all of these things. We just like want to have kind of an open discussion about it.
And these are like smaller groups, smaller investments.
Yeah, I think it's smaller masterminds, but you know, this is the way I'm looking at it. You know, regardless of what is happening with NAR, the inventory is low. And when rates come down, we're gonna have pent-up demand and the market is there's gonna be probably 50% fewer realtors that are paying attention, or they'll come in a year later to start working again. And there will be a window where it will get super busy. And with the low inventory, if you have a good buyer, you're going to want to have that buyer be committed to you. And the idea of using buyer brokers agreements is an excellent idea. Anyway, it's always been an excellent idea. And buyers will have even more value the lower the inventory gets, because that's a source of income that you don't know exactly when it will happen, because it depends on whether you can find them a home. But when it's a low inventory environment and maybe our income is off a little bit, anything is huge. So that's the way we're looking at it. We want to get this office trained up so people aren't hesitant to use buyer broker agreements.
One of your fellow brokers called me yesterday with, talking about an appointment he had with a seller who's also gonna be a buyer. And she said that she was shopping around, trying to find the best value, was talking about rate. She brought up the NAR lawsuit. But she knew about it and she was using it as leverage to drive the rate down. And he said, okay, well, sure, like, you know, imagine you weren't paying the BA season. I'm assuming you'll sign a buyer broker with me, if you want me to represent you in the purchase of the property. And she was like, no. So like, it's just starting.
If you're doing both.
Yeah, it's just starting, right? And so, I think having these conversations now, getting ahead of this, workshopping around what kind of conversations you guys are having with your buyers, hopefully, about this will be invaluable to the group. We'll all learn from each other.
Yeah, it's no different than listing appointments. You've got to sharpen your skills and be able to answer all the questions to have the highest percentage chance of getting the listing. So the more listings you do, the greater the opportunity to become better at it. And so it's no different than pushing to have buyer's agent agreements. You'll get rejection, you'll go back and try and fine tune what you say, you'll come back and do it again, you might get rejection again, but you get better over time. And that's the way life works with practically anything you choose to do. So this is just a good time to start learning how to do buyer broker agreements, and that's regardless of what's happening with NAR. We will be challenged more on our commissions by people like that think they're, you know, leading the pack, and there might be an opportunity to get everybody to work for less. And so you have to understand your value and you have to be able to convey your value.
Okay. Switch gears. What do you think was the #1 searched word on YouTube for 2023 so far? We can help people down. Next one. That was an exciting tie-in to a really exciting class next week. So this is taught by not only Dwight Schwab, but Cameron Schwab, and they're going to be analyzing real estate investment properties. So a commercial investment property versus a residential property, single family, multifamily, and this is the kind of information a lot of people ask for a lot of times or don't know how to do. And so this is gonna be a really exciting class.
Yeah, so this is gonna be understanding how to read financials. So if you are ever in a situation where you're representing a client or you personally want to buy something, the first thing you have to do is you have to understand the financials that are associated with the project. So if you're looking at a duplex or a threeplex or a 33-plex, there are going to be financials associated with it. And so Cameron and I are gonna do a deep dive on the financials of multiple properties. And you'll be able to start to understand what they look like, so that if you encounter them, you can read the language and figure out the analysis to understand if they're worthy values or not worthy values. So, all math, if you like math, go.
This should be really good. I'm excited. You know what I would do the first thing if I was gonna buy an investment property?
What?
Show it to you, ask what you thought. So, learn from people who know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
And if you register, you don't have to register, you can show up, but if you register, it helps with other things. And then the holiday party is hard to believe, it's just over 2 weeks away at Bricks. And again, registering helps us kind of get a count, but you don't have to, and bring your significant others. It's always fun to get together outside of the workplace and meet everyone's significant others. Good. Couple more slides and then we'll get to the meat. So some of you guys have been invited to this. This is for the top agents in the region. So you might have seen an invitation to this come through your email, but I just wanted to mention it. And it's a virtual mastermind, and it's our Northwest region top agents. And they have a guest speaker this time, Brian Gubernet. So just know if you get an invitation from the KW Northwest region for this, it's because you're one of the top agents in our region. And a lot of times they're in person, you have to travel, but this one's virtual and easy. Good, I wanted to share this slide because I thought it was so good from NAR. So we talked a lot about like people who don't need to sell right now, but over the next 2 years, there's a lot of pent-up sellers. So over the next 2 years, there's going to be 7 million newborn babies. There's going to be 3 million marriages, 1.5 million divorces, 7 million people are going to turn 65 in the US, 4 million deaths, 4 million net new jobs, and 50 million job switches. So those are all real reasons, right? So it's just something to kind of think about, have a little positivity. Anyone have any thoughts on that? You want to share? Good news, right? I mean, not really all of them, but
I think,
yes.
I think this is exactly why you're out there talking to people that may or may not want to sell today, right? This is why you're out there reaching out, making connections with people, meeting new people, adding people to your database, providing them value. So when they're ready to buy, when they have a new baby, when they get married, when they get divorced, when they turn 65, when they die, that's our word for. But when they get a new job, you're just preparing for all these opportunities, right? So when you meet somebody, you don't really know when one of those things is going to happen to them. So you're preparing for that opportunity. I mean, it becomes really obvious, but I don't know. That's why you have to have new people.
Right. Right, because a lot of times people will be like, oh, well, isn't it a horrible time to buy a new house? Interest rates, like, well, maybe you don't have any other motivation. But there's a lot of people that will have other motivation.
Yeah, totally.
That's it. It's a little
Well,
bit-
this has happened in the last year or two as well, right? This is what's happening over time. And
Yeah.
so
Good point.
this is this whole idea of pent-up demand, and when the rates come down, if they come down next spring or next summer, then this stuff you'll see it, you'll feel it, because your phones will start ringing, people start coming through the open houses. And if you're not ready, then you'll have a cap on the business that you do. If you don't have your systems and models in place, your database all humming along, then you'll just have a limit on how much income you can make. That's the simple answer, because you won't be able to handle the business.
While the market's down, while people are leaving the business, they're leaving their opportunities behind, and you need to pick up on those opportunities and take them when all this stuff happens.
Yep, love it. Okay, now let's get to our main event. Our guest speaker, Justin Stoddart. Come on up, everyone. Let's give Justin a round of applause for being here. If you don't know Justin, he is an author of the Upstream Model. He has a amazing podcast, the Think Bigger podcast, and some other new things he's going to talk about. But really, a lot of what he's going to share with us is how you can build your business through referrals, through our allied partners and referral partners. So, Justin, I'll let you take it from here. Thanks for being
It's fun
here.
to be back here.
Yes,
For
we
those
love
who
it.
don't know me, I spent about 8 years in the title industry and I built a lot of friendships, spent a lot of time in this office, and very, very fun to be back with you. Now in a different role, I'm actually the CEO of a company called Pro Insight, which I'm excited to share with you a little bit more about what that means. Can you guys hear me okay? Is my speaking loud enough to where they
Put
can
this
hear
on
me?
the edge.
On the edge.
Or here.
Mhm.
I guess there's a mic on that one too, so
Mhm.
I'll try and be thoughtful of the people at home without yelling it. All right, let's get started. I want to, before I tell this story, I gotta tell another story. So my daughter turned 17 on Sunday, and my oldest daughter, and it was like, oh my goodness, I'm not the father of a 17-year-old. And I try to be helpful at home. We've got 6 kids, so I don't have much of an option. But when it comes homework time, my kids are like, where's mom? And I'm like, hey. And I reminded them last night, I said, look, I'm the only published author in this house. And they're like, rolled their eyes, where's mom? And it was funny because my daughter is trying to be really creative in the way she's doing a presentation at school, to where she actually is doing like puppets. And I was like, they do this and like you're a junior in high school? She's like, we got to do something to be different. So the funny part about it, I didn't bring my puppet show tonight, but I was like, I'm so tired, Leah. She's like finally she gave in and said, Dad, I'll let you help me. I need you to help me script out what these puppets are going to say. And it was for like a more pretty intelligent book, but they were trying to simplify and make it fun for the class. And she was laughing as I was going out the door because she said, Dad, do you remember last night? And I was like, I know, I was really tired. She said, well, we had the socks on your hands and I kept asking you questions and you were asleep. And when I would ask you a question, you'd start moving the puppet's hands and saying that you weren't asleep. And it was pretty funny out the door. So anyway, lots of good experiences being a father. Today I'm not going to talk about being a dad any more than probably that story, but I do want to share with you a story of a man who was at the end of his life. We saw this visual image of all the people that are retiring. I want to tell you about a guy named John, and John had saved his entire life to go on a Mediterranean cruise. He was a man of very simple means. He didn't have a lot of income, and he felt like if he could go on that Mediterranean cruise, he would be able to like satisfy his life's biggest bucket list item. And so he packed his bag, you can see down here, packed with all the things that he felt like he would need, and had really saved up his entire life for this one moment. And he boarded the cruise and began to unpack his bag. And inside of his bag, he had some interesting cargo that not many people would have. He had saltine crackers and cans of beans. He was like, this is all I will need. I'll be on this cruise and I definitely won't go hungry because I brought all this stuff. Well, once in a while, he would look outside his stateroom and he would see people dressed up in very fancy clothes, and they were headed to these big fancy dinners. And a little piece of him was like, oh, I wish I would have the ability to go to those dinners. But I'm not going to be ungrateful, right? Us around the Thanksgiving season, we're kind of feeling that way. We don't want to be not grateful. And he felt that way. He's like, I'm just grateful to be here. And so then he would go back to his stateroom, look out the little porthole, and continue to eat his saltine crackers and his beans. And the final day of the cruise came, and one of the bellmen stopped by to say, which of the 4 dinner parties are you going to be attending? And the man said, look, I thank you for thinking of me, but I don't have any extra money to be able to go to this, any of these dinners. So I'll just be sitting in my room. And the bellman was very confused. Anybody here that's been on a cruise would be very confused at this man's response. And the bellman began to tell him, like, no, the dinners are included. It's included. And I was like, included? Like, there's no extra cost. And then it's like, yeah, there's no extra cost. In fact, the entire cruise has been included. All the dinners, all the meals, everything. It's all been included. You can imagine in this moment how this man might have felt. That he was living far below his privileges. That he had all access to all this incredible experience, and he didn't access it because he was still thinking like someone who was kind of quarantined in the stateroom. Well, I'm here to tell you that I believe that real estate agents and many professionals from different industries live far below their privileges. And today I want to walk you through kind of what it looks like to elevate your influence, to go from maybe the equivalent of eating saltine crackers inside of a stateroom to all the way up to being on those fancy dinner floors. Now, what I'm saying here is not critical of any way of getting business. And you should continue to do it. I also believe that there are certain conversations that you can have that get you to the motivated buyer and seller more quickly and without as much angst and without as much maybe repetition and people maybe declining. Okay. So I want to start at maybe kind of the stateroom level. And again, my admiration goes out to those that will make 100 dials every day, right? That works. I don't think there's anybody in this, in any part of the real estate industry who'll say they don't know people who do that, get up every single day and make 100 dials. It works. In fact, here are the numbers. That if you do 100 dials a day, 5 days a week, within 10 days, 1,000 calls, you'll have a buyer or seller in the pipeline. And I vetted this with agents around the country. There's like very, very good solicitors. They say, yeah, that's about the right numbers. And some have figured out ways to even dial faster to get to those numbers quicker. But the conversion rate is about 0.1%. Okay. And maybe even a little off from that during a market where there are maybe fewer highly motivated buyers and sellers. Okay. So what I want to talk about, that the next step up of that is being a vendor. Okay. Now, a vendor is somebody who doesn't solicit the unknown, they solicit the known. In other words, they're calling people that they know, but they're calling very much with, are you looking to buy, sell, or invest in real estate? Okay. Now that works. We all know it does, but you can only make those calls for so long before either A, you run out of people, right? Or B, like you're calling to get, right? And so there's just not any more getting. But you'll still notice that there's a unknown versus soliciting the known. So I think we'd all agree that calling people that we know, even asking for business, is better than calling the unknown, right? So that's a 1% conversion, okay? Now, these people are known as, I think we'd all give them the badge of like, these are go-getters, and they get customers, right? And we look up to them and we admire them. And then we also might say to ourselves, maybe there's a more effective way to get clients because they get paid, but let's talk about how we might be able to increase our influence a little bit more and be able to be more effective with the time that we have. And that's going from being a vendor to being a connector. Now, the difference between a vendor and a connector is they're still calling people that they know, but they're calling to give value. Now, we've heard the things that we should say, like, do you need any professionals? Do you need a roofer? Do you need a painter? Do you need a plumber? Do you need a landscaper, right? And we make those phone calls under the premise of, I'm able to connect you to valuable people. Anybody ever heard that before? Anybody here ever made those calls? Are those better received than maybe asking for something? Or is it easier for you to make and say, hey, just want to know if you're looking for any contractors? Is that an easier call to make? Would you all agree with that? To give value as opposed to come to get something from them, okay? And I think we would agree that being a connector is a little bit easier call, and it's probably better received on the other end, right? Is that we're calling to see what they need as opposed to hearing what we need, right? So that conversion rate actually doubles, okay? So you go from being 100 to 1 conversion to being a 50 to 1. So if you can't see that, I'm kind of looking right here. It's a 2% conversion rate. In other words, you would make 50 phone calls to people that you know, asking if they need anything. You become a liaison to value. After 50 calls, the statistics say that you'll have something in the pipeline, okay? This is pretty good, right? You kind of start to see like, okay, how do I make more of these calls than maybe these calls? Now, notice that the common thread here is we need to make calls, right? Like that's really, at the end of the day, having all conversion happens in conversation, and there's no way around it. At the end of the day, people want to converse with you before they decide to use you. So anytime there's anything out there that says that, well, you don't need to have a conversation, I would be skeptical of that, right? At least at some level. So let's move on to the next level, which is an advisor. And I think everything that you're taught inside this building, which I believe is a very unique place to do real estate. That's why I spent a lot of my time in previous career here is because I learned a lot from the leadership that you guys have. And they teach you to be advisors. They teach you to not just be a liaison to value, like you see here, but they teach you to be a center of value. All these conversations and masterminds about like how to evaluate an investment property, how to truly show your value as a buyer's agent, like that's how you become an advisor. Now you'll notice that as you look at that percentage, you go to a 4% conversion rate. 25 conversations as an advisor statistically will get you a deal in the pipeline. So in other words, absorb everything that's being taught here and go have those types of conversations where you're not just connecting people to other value, but you are the center of value. Okay, you are the value. Okay, now
That could be like teaching a class, if our agents teach a class here, right?
yeah,
Like an investment class, tax.
really quickly, what other things have you learned from this office and the leadership here that's helped you to be an advisor? Think about some of the classes that you've been to. Anybody share? Like what have you learned to be an advisor? And how does an advisor stand out from just a common agent? Veronica, you've been in the business a long time, you've done great business. What's the difference between I only call on the people that I love. I'm sorry.
First week and having a great class. That class, I've been at other companies for 5 years and I've had the knowledge or input or care into the agents. It's just, just information. What are you asking me?
You answer whatever. Yeah.
They talk about here.
So you came here because you recognize that you could be a better advisor
Yes.
more quickly here than other places.
Well, they have the same passion for our industry and
Yeah.
get back to their agents here.
Good. I knew I could kind of great answer out of you. Okay, so that's what it looks like to be an advisor. Now, when you move up to this level of influence, you don't have to make as many calls to get a deal, right? You noticing the conversion right here is that you're no longer just a go-getter, you're a go-giver, right? You're giving great value. You're not just getting customers, one and done. You're getting clients, people who come back, people who refer. Mark, you've built a great business. So have you, Peter, right? Around people that come back, right? People that refer their friends and their clients, okay? So you guys get this at a high level, okay? What I want to share with you today is that these people not only are paid, but they get well paid. But I want to introduce you to another level on this spectrum, on this spectrum of how do we elevate our influence? How do we come, because the more influential we can become in the marketplace, the more business we'll have with the same or less amount of effort. Okay. Do you guys all agree with that? Like, there's kind of this like this common theme in our society about influencers, right? And we kind of think a lot about people out there like Hawk and Makeup and stuff, and celebrities doing this and that. But the term influence means that you actually give people advice and they follow it. You're a leader, right? You can lead people to places, whether to do business with you or to even do business with other people that you recommend. And so that's the level that I want to introduce you to today, that some of you already know, maybe you just didn't have the distinction for it, which is being a director. Okay, think of like a board of directors. Okay, now the overall theme for today is how do you create really powerful referral relationships? And I'll say I've tried this a number of different ways. One of the common ways is like a BNI group, right? A LaTip group. Anybody here a part of one of those? Okay. It's really interesting because what I found is the most successful agents in the marketplace aren't in many cases, right? Now, there may be some who are like, no, I am. And you might have a totally killer group and it makes sense to be there. But what I found is that in those settings, it's very cumbersome to go show up every week for 90 minutes, be around a whole group of people who are good in kind of random industries, right? So we have all kinds of people, florists and chiropractors who would love to refer you, but the reality is they're just not in line with finding active buyers, sellers, investors, right? So you spend a lot of time with these people, but they aren't really the key relationships. So that's one way that people have gone about kind of building out these types of relationships. But the value of doing this, and I'm going to walk you through very specifically how you actually develop these relationships, okay? But the conversion rate here you'll see is 10 to 1. In other words, 10 conversations as a director, and you're actively working with a buyer or seller, right? Or an active buyer or seller. Okay. Now you might say, well, I don't understand the difference between connector and director. Okay. What's the difference? A connector is somebody who their value is connecting you to other people. A director is you're still an advisor and you're connecting people to other advisors. So for example, you work very closely with a CPA. Let me just ask a question. By show of hands, who here got a piece of business from a CPA last year? Okay. How about a financial advisor? Okay, good. How about an insurance agent? Okay. Now, here's what I want you to know is that each and every one of those professionals that I just mentioned have on average about 500 clients in their database. And if we just said statistically, people move once every 10 years, maybe off a little bit, but for easy math's sake, wise thing to do when you're speaking in public is make the math easy, is that means that if they have 500 clients, 50 of their clients bought and sold last year. 50. Ask yourself, like, wait a minute. We talked about all these life events, right? The NAR put up all these life events. You might do well by being in conversation with people, but imagine if you had an army of other advisors who were similar to you, who could identify when those life events were happening and bring you those active buyers or sellers. Now, that's why this number goes down to, or up to a 10% conversion rate, is because conversations are happening when you're not present. Okay, so you're having 10 conversations, but the reality is that business is coming from conversations that a financial advisor is having with their clients, and they're uncovering the fact that they're going to be selling a home. They're going to be moving, they're going to be investing, right? So that's how that number gets so good so quick. So let's get right into let me just back here real quick. So you become not just a go-giver, you become a leader, and you create not just clients, but ambassadors, right? In the sense that you get people who are bringing you up when you're not around. And that's where you start to experience scale, which is a business that grows when you're not the one having to push on it. Okay, it's happening without you. Okay, so let's go back to maybe this conversation here of like, how much then, if I make 1,000 calls over the course of 2 weeks, 100 dials a day, okay, and I get one deal in the pipeline out of that, that's the equivalent of making $10 a dial. Kind of helpful to know, right? If you're like, okay, $10 a dial, see how fast I can make them. Okay, but what happens when you move up to the vendor level? Okay, where you only need 100 calls, right? Here you're soliciting the known as opposed to the unknown. Now it's $100 a dial. Okay, $100 a conversation. Okay, next up is connector. Okay, now you've on a $10,000 commission, okay, maybe an average commission. Okay, now it's $200 a dial. At the advisor level, you ask your average attorney or financial advisor, it's probably $1 per hour, right? Or maybe it's double that. But now you're actually in the range of what these advisors make. Okay, which is very consistent with what we're saying, is that we're helping you to no longer live below your privileges, but we're helping you to start to live with who you believe you are, who you should be, which is a true professional, similarly looked upon as a financial advisor or a tax professional, that kind of esteem. I would say that part of these NAR lawsuits are coming down because there are a whole bunch of agents who haven't shown up as advisors. They've shown up as solicitors and the consumers don't love it, right? That's part of it, okay? And we're also finding the fact that obviously the attorneys, right, who are kind of leading this charge are going to benefit greatly from this, not just from that lawsuit, but right, they're standing in line to take the place of that. So we have to be more professional in order to stave off some of those consumer advances against commissions. Is that they might have those conversations with people, or they'll have them, less likely to have those conversations with people who they see as similar to a financial advisor, who has that type of advisor conversation. And by the way, brings a team of other advisors with them. Okay, remember how I mentioned the director level is you have other professionals around you who think and act like you do that you bring to the table when appropriate. I work closely with an agent out of Incline Village. I guess it's actually Nevada, so it's Lake Tahoe area. And he said, I all of a sudden these principles resonated with me because I had a client who was moving out of California to Nevada for tax reasons. And he said, normally I would just go show them a home. But I said, tell me why you're leaving. Well, we're selling a business here and we want to get established in Nevada. Anyway, he said, do you have a good tax professional that specializes in those types of transfers? I said, no, but it's definitely on our mind. I know a guy, right? And it's so simple, but all of a sudden, instead of just looking, okay, I'm a real estate agent. My job is to help you buy, sell, or invest in real estate, right? And I'm going to hand you the keys and smile at the picture, and then I'm going to move on and put you on my drip campaign. That's how most agents work, right? So what we're saying is take a look at what are the concerns they're facing before they get to you, and what are the concerns they're facing after they get to you. And you'll start to identify that it's actually quite easy to bring other professionals to the table, which, by the way, increases your value. Okay, the client is actually more pleased with you, and you're more like those other professionals now, right? Now you're able to actually get those types of professionals doing the same thing for you. So let me get into this last one here, director. Again, 10 calls gets you the 10,000 commission, right? That's $1,000 a dial. That's how you get your dollar per hour to go up. One of the ways, right, is by having those types of conversations with people. So how do you do this? Well, for those that haven't read my book, I'm happy to give you a digital or even audio copy if you're interested. You can also find it on Amazon. But the principle of that is that most professionals hang out down here, and it's very crowded. Anybody here feel like maybe there's more agents right now than there are active buyers? As many agents as there are like people selling their home, right? That's just, it's just magnified right now because of the market. But this is actually how it always is. There's always a group of people that are doing all of the common practices. And some of them do them faster, and some of them do them more efficiently, but they're still common down here, okay? All the while, we're missing out on the fact that there are maybe some other professionals up here, some of which we identify, financial advisors, tax professionals, right, insurance agents, that are sitting up here who already are dealing with these clients before they ever say, you know what, we need a realtor too. Okay, yet we hang out down here. So my invitation to you, what I'm going to show you how to do today, is how to move up the shoreline. Okay, so where now you're hanging out up here with these other professionals, and you're actually getting the fish before they enter into this common water down here where everybody's at. Where you're competing heavily on price. You're competing heavily on commission. Okay, you're getting them early. And because of this person and at their level of status with their clients, when they bring you to the table, it's heard very differently than when the internet brings you to the table. Okay, people hear it differently, and they see you differently. So instead of marketing to this giant database and getting a small number of referrals out of it, which is the common strategy, what we like to do is to have a small database of, now, yes, you should still have a big database and take care of people. But what if you had a small database of these professional partners who you regularly pour value into? Some of your regular calls were, how do I add value to these other professionals? Okay, when you're having those types of conversations, all of a sudden, those few people happen to be just situated in the marketplace in such a way that they're able to deliver a large number of referrals to you. Okay, now that's very efficient, very effective way of doing business. So let me share with you, take you on the journey of somebody's life. Okay, somebody graduates from college. Anybody have any kids in college? Okay, awesome. That's right. We just heard about 3 kids, Lark. Okay, so they graduate from college. Can you think of any professionals that would want to know if someone's getting ready to graduate college? Just rattle off a couple of professionals that maybe would benefit by knowing that someone's graduating from college and moving out on their own. A recruiter. Okay. What was it? Healthcare. Healthcare. Yes, absolutely. Right. Insurance. Right. Maybe so you think of like people, maybe potentially real estate agent at some point. But let's keep going. Okay. They get their first job. Okay. Think about the professionals that would maybe be touching people's lives at that point. Okay. And then maybe they fall in love and decide to get married. Okay. Think about the professionals. Who are some of the professionals that are involved when somebody gets married? Wedding planner. Good.
Hotels.
Yeah.
Baker.
Good.
Great.
Okay. Okay, good. All right. Now, what about when someone buys and sells the home? Who are the other professionals? We obviously are sitting in the room with those. Thank you. Insurance agent. Okay. Any other? Title. Okay, good. Now, I want you to think about at each one of these life events, we typically look through the lens of, do they need to buy, sell, invest in real estate? Oh, they don't? Okay, thanks. No thanks. I want you to think more like a director to say, who do these people need right now? Right? All of a sudden, your client database of 300 people becomes a much more interesting conversation. Okay, life event, are you guys in need of these other professionals, right? Now, in part, that's that role of being a connector, okay? But you'll also start to determine,
that you can start to not just refer other people, but you'll start, the more you spend time around these other professionals, you'll start to pick up on wisdom. You'll start to pick up on ideas from them that actually allow your client experience to be elevated, to be more valuable, okay? Obviously, they bought a home, started a family, realized that condo wasn't quite big enough, time to get a home in the suburbs. I'll move more quickly through these. But the question that I have for you is that each one of these life events, you're not the only professional who's needed. There are other professionals who are needed. And the more that you identify that and even bring them to the table, right, it will increase the value you bring to those clients, and it will encourage those other professionals to do the same thing. So we'll keep moving here. And we have somebody graduates from, or sorry, the parents start thinking about college for the kids. Thankfully, the parents got a promotion, but unfortunately with the promotion came a relocation, and the spouse did not like where they got relocated to, unfortunately. Okay, that created some financial hardship, but thankfully they got back on their feet, building business. Ended up selling businesses, downsizing life, enjoying retirement, transferring some assets before they passed on. Okay, this is like the typical journey of someone's life. Okay, each one of these life events brings about an opportunity for you to be a director. Okay, brings about the opportunity for you to say who might be needed. Okay, so let's go through one here. Someone's selling an asset. Okay, let's say it's a rental property. Obviously, real estate agent's going to be involved. Maybe an exchange agent. Okay, this is just some ideas to give you some ideas on other professionals, tax professional, attorney, lender. Okay, the more that you say, every time there's one of these are needed, I should build some relationships with these people to say, hey, I help people sell an asset, and I know at that time they typically need an exchange agent. I'd like to create a relationship with someone who I really trust. Can I get to know your client experience? Can I get to know what makes you different? Do you know how different that actually makes you just ask? All of a sudden, you're not coming to say, hey, can I leave my cards on your corkboard in your lunchroom? Okay, which is what maybe a connector would do, or a solicitor. But you're saying, can I understand your client experience? As a real estate agent helping people do this, I need a team of people around me who are good at these things, and I'd love to have somebody that I trust. I'd love to just spend a few minutes. You can tell me at what point I might introduce you into my client experience. Do you think that would sound different to an attorney if you went and had that conversation with them? At what point would it be an ideal referral for you? Okay, let's go to the next one here. An inheritance, right? Anybody here ever worked with someone who was inheriting a lot of money? Okay, is that a decent client for you, Mark? Yeah, great. Okay, and I would imagine there are other professionals that were probably there helping as well, not just a real estate agent, right? Here's a few of them: insurance agent, estate attorney, real estate agent, tax professional, financial advisor, right? Anyone else that maybe we missed up there that you can think of that was involved or that was needed at that time?
An agent in another state as well as a regular client.
Good.
So, yeah.
Perfect. Other agents, great. Appraiser, very good one. Love it. Okay. Promotion, job promotion, right? Now, again, when you're contacting your database and telling how much you appreciate them and excited for them about their upcoming holidays and what are their plans for the coming year, you might hear people talking about some of these life events. And before it'd be like, well, I don't want to just ask it, well, you need a new house, right? Like, what other professionals do they need, right? Who else are they in need to be in contact with? This is how you should start to build your professional network, is find the people that you want to introduce to your clients to make your value go up. Okay? You'll probably have to have less conversations about your commission if they know that when they get you, they get all these people as well. You're more valuable to them. Okay? This becomes part of this is kind of digging your well before you're thirsty. Okay? And there's all kinds of other life events. I had 18 up there on the board. Each one of those has other professionals that come to the table. So the big question is, well, how do we do this faster, Justin, right? Like, that sounds nice about having conversations with these people and to building these relationships. And I'll kind of walk you through some ways that the company that I run is called Pro Insight. Okay. So what we believe is collaborative education and events. Okay. I've been teaching this to real estate agents for probably the past 5 years, if not more. And what I found is it's very similar to educating one player on the basketball team. So when I got the opportunity to run Pro Insight, the vision of the company was, we're going to have professionals from over a dozen different industries in over 40,000. All of them the same principles that I'm sharing with you here. So now it's not you having to go out and educate these professionals. We're going to help you do it. We're going to teach them how to think similarly, to where they're not just looking at, okay, I'm an attorney, I do this, or I'm a financial advisor, I do this. So like, what else does a client need? Who else can I bring to the table? So that collaborative education makes it very easy to now be aligned with people who think like you think, because we're going to help you all think the same, right? And then we do events. This was an event we did down in the community where I live. Okay, so we had a real estate agent, we had an insurance specialist, we had a mortgage loan officer, and we had a financial advisor. And when I say collaborative events, what I mean by this is it was called an expert panel event. And we had professionals from 4 different industries who were chosen as top producers. And those professionals spoke to their database. So each one of them were given a promo video, and they were given collateral to be able to share on social media and email out to their database. And so now this real estate agent, right, is being featured on a panel, a virtual panel, as a Zoom meeting, right? Nothing too fancy, in front of the financial advisors' clients, in front of the insurance agents' clients, in front of the lenders' clients, and in front of our own clients, and being seen as a true professional, like someone who's different than the common agents. I saw a lot of head nods saying, does it feel like there's more agents than there are deals out there right now, right? I would say there's a lot of common agents, but there's very few agents who are being positioned as being very different, right? Very different and almost an equal to these other professions. So I'll share with you the outcome that came from this expert panel event. Actually, that was a promo video that we did to help. If this was a topic, preparing for retirement in uncertain times. It was simply a Zoom meeting with about 40 people. Hey there, my name is Justin Stoddart. I'm the CEO of Pro Insight, and today we have a treat for you. Anyway, here's the results from this one agent, okay? From that one event, she had 4 deals, 3 listings, and a $1.7 million buyer. Okay? She had elevated identity as an expert, both with her clients and with the other panelists. And then now she has plans for ongoing collaborative events with the other panelists. Okay? So I share that because it was one event. It's 60 minutes on Zoom that we gave them the assets to be able to promote that out. Okay? So you can, like, this is a way for you to really differentiate yourself, is to find these other professionals and actually do events together with them. Okay? Where you're educating your clients not just as a home buyer seller class, which is extremely valuable, but now you're educating them on more broad topics, and you're being brought to the table in front of their clients. Like, one of the big concerns, these other professionals, they don't refer very well. Events like this actually bypass the need for them to refer. At some level, you're simply cross-pollinating, and you're being put in front of their clients as seen as an expert. Okay. So let me go back to this original metaphor, right? Is that we have this giant cruise ship and we have a choice, right? And I believe that good real estate agents like you guys, I know that because you're here today and you're here inside this brokerage. It tells me a lot about you, learning from these leaders. Okay, like you belong on the upper deck of these nice dinner halls. And my question to you is, are you at sometimes showing up as somebody in the stateroom eating and salting crackers when you could be up dining? This role of dealing with people's largest asset, maybe the most important purchase that they'll ever make, right? Are you acting accordingly? Or are we more acting like in the stateroom, right? So my invitation, I'll just share really, I used to charge between $1,000 and $2,000 a month to coach professionals on this. Thankfully, because of Pro Insight, it's very much a volume play. We're looking to build a 1 million member network across a dozen industries across the country, to where we don't have to charge a lot. We charge $250 for the year to have weekly trainings on how to get professionals, on how to get business for the professionals. We do that to agents who qualify. They're selling typically at least 2 deals a month. And they get exclusive territory in their kind of area and their profession. So if that's not quite you yet, we do have some other options for you. So it's not just for people who are at that level, but those are the the ones who we feel like have enough influence, we can help really expand their influence. So if you're interested in seeing if you'd like to be a part of Pro Insight, like I said, $250 for the year. So people are like, for the year? I guess for the year. You get weekly education on how to build these referral relationships. And we're not just training you, but we end up training people in your community on how they can reciprocate accordingly. So anyway, that's our path to helping people to really build these referral relationships. If there's any interest, scan that QR code and we'll take it from there. So anyway, thanks for the opportunity. Nice to be here. Great stuff.
On the upper deck, right?
Leader.
The leader deck. It reminds me, there was at Mega Camp, there was a Keller Williams agent. I don't know where she's from, but she had a group like this, an elite industry expert group. There was like doctors, attorneys, but they were all very high end, and she would have these VIP events and only invite them rather than inviting clients. And she got really well known wherever she was from. I don't know if anyone else saw her present. But it really speaks to that, surrounding yourself with other people that are at that advisor level too, and putting that time into that.
Yeah,
So,
I was thinking about in our business training clinic we did 2 weeks ago, and we're talking about like the different lead sources we have that like successful agents typically have 3. Like I also was thinking about, like you get a listing, you want to get at least another client or half a client out of that. But like what you're talking about, like really thinks about like really taking advantage of the opportunity of having a client who wants to do business and then using that to help other people. In return, they're going to help you, and having it be another lead source that really is just right there. You just have to tap into it, right? You just really have to. It doesn't sound like it takes a lot of effort, right? It's not probably easier than finding a client. That's for sure. Like going out and being down singing open houses for 8 days, for 8 Sundays to find a client. That's 24 hours, right? Like the amount of time it would take to make those connections, you could do like half an open house, maybe. I don't know. It just seems like a really good use of your time if you break down the math.
Love that feeling. I think it's a going and getting a paycheck.
Yeah.
Right. Versus going and getting an annuity, they'll pay you every month.
Yeah.
As professionals, we're going to continue to have these conversations with people who are active buyers and sellers. So that's great.
Yeah, I was talking to somebody the other day, and he's saying that an attorney had referred him 2 clients this year because he had met the attorney through a real estate transaction. The attorney was impressed with the work he did, and now he just keeps giving him business. And you have to create that opportunity somehow. It's not that easy, but it can be done, and it just takes a little bit of effort.
yeah. And some of you guys are already doing these types of seminars, but it really makes you see the value of expanding beyond the first time home buyer, just the investment property, to like Laura, you guys did a downsizing class. Oh, you do?
And vendors that can be financial planner, we had an arborist, we had, different people that we need. When we had a good mantra was no one succeeds alone.
I love that.
Connect
Yes.
all of these people that we know that in our business, connect them to each other.
A big lead source for Dwight's business was every time he got a listing, he'd send out postcards. And it was like, you have an orange, it's a listing, you have an orange, you want to squeeze every drop of it out of it. But apparently there's a bunch of juice that we left in that orange that we can still get if we just start making these connections. So I think that's great stuff, really good stuff.
I had a thought, like you were showing the example of the fish coming down the stream, and you use the same commission or compensation scheme, all the way up to the director. But statistically, those fish are much fatter.
They are. Yeah, this is absolutely true. Yeah. Yeah.
Those big ones taste better.
Yeah.
Right?
Attorneys are expensive.
Oh, well, I think it's cool too, Justin, that you have been passionate about this for a long time. Like you wrote a book about it first, right? And then you talked about it on your podcast, and then you were doing the coach. Are you still doing the independent coaching at all, or is everything tied into Pro Insight now?
I put all real estate agents over here.
Okay.
Kind of enterprise level contracts with like the title industry, but yeah, all my coaching now is being put in here.
That's great. So it's conceptually, you still believe in the same concept. It's just evolving as the industry evolves. So I think that's really cool.
Choosing who to partner with.
Oh yeah.
3 financial planners, and they've all given you a little bit of business. You don't wanna like just go to one. Anyway,
It's a really good question. Because I'm always, yeah. Yeah, can I ask that? Can I just elaborate on your question a little bit? Because I've always felt the same way. It's like I feel like I do a good enough job looking bad on my own. So I want to make sure that I'm referring people that are going to make me look really good. So how do I couple that with somebody I know is going to refer me back?
I think it's great question, by the way. I think that what we found is that people will self-select based on how much they want to collaborate. What you're looking for at the director level is people who are very collaborative. And I think what part of our offering is that we train not just you, but we train other professionals to think like that. And so, we encourage you to invite them to come and see how that type of education could benefit their practice, how their ideal clients are already in the databases of other professionals. So for example, a financial advisor benefits greatly from a relationship with a tax professional. So the principles that we teach on these weekly trainings help them to open their eyes to the fact that they don't have to be chasing business. They can just build a couple key relationships. And those professionals who want to come and learn and collaborate, they self-select. You don't have to select them. They'll self-select based on how collaborative they are and how much they want to learn and engage in those conversations.
and you don't think if you ask one and they say, yeah, I'm up for it, I'm really interested in collaborating with you. That's great, but then you don't ask the other one that's in the same business, are their feelings hurt because they would have collaborated with you had you only asked. Like that's my circle, because you can only ask one, right?
Well,
Unless that's when you ask, that no one, I don't want to get in front of you.
you can start with a favorite, and if they can say it, but if they don't actually collaborate, then you move on, right?
Yeah.
I guess that's a good question for your model, Justin, do you have to have just one rock solid in each, or could you have two?
I do believe in digging a well deep as opposed to 5-foot wells everywhere, right?
Yeah.
However, I do think that there are different financial advisors who serve different types of clients. There's some that only want people who have $1 million to invest. There's others that are, just getting started. And so I think that you can identify that there are different professionals who are really in the best interest of a particular client. And so having different relationships with people who serve different clients makes sense, right?
Awesome. Thank you. And Justin will be here for a few more minutes if anyone wants to ask him any additional questions. But thank you all for being here. Thank you, Justin. We always appreciate you coming and sharing your knowledge with us. All right. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you. That was good. That was good. That was the best one I've seen.
I know.
That's really
Justin,
good.
you need more books too.
It's really good.